Welcome back, friends. As you know, I'm Justice Versetti. During the recording of this video, I apologize if I sound nasally or anything like that. I'm fighting a cold. Uh, but this is a video that I've felt compelled to do for some time now. If you follow politics as I do, you know that there has been some comparison between our commander-in-chief, whether we like him or not, um, and another sort of fascist dictator that you might have heard of, someone by the name of Adolf Hitler. While some comparisons, a lot of people think it might be hyperbolic or an unfair comparison. I have some slides that the Reich would watch made into a sort of a nice timeline of Hitler's rise to power, and some of the comparisons are shocking, stark, and they make a lot of sense. There might be a lot of things here on this timeline that you weren't even aware of. So without further ado, I'm going to show the slides on the screen, and I'm going to go through them, each of them one by one, and give you my thoughts at the end. Alright, first one's I'm grabbing on your screen now. In 1923, Adolf Hitler incited an insurrection against the German government. He was tried, given a slap on the wrist, and became a convicted felon. Despite being treated charitably by the judge, Hitler claimed the trial was political persecution and successfully portrayed himself as a victim of the corrupt Social Democrats. Sound familiar so far? It gets better, for lack of a better term. Next slide on the screen. Hitler cleverly positioned himself as the voice of the common man, railing against the elites, cultural degeneracy, and the establishment, who he all labeled as Marxists. He claimed the education system was indoctrinating children to hate Germany, and promised to return Germany to greatness. Make Germany great again. Next slide. To solidify his base, Hitler masterfully scapegoated minorities for the nation's problems, exploiting societal divisions with an us versus them narrative. Many Germans took the bait. Hitler's Nazi Party continued to gain traction until he became Chancellor in 1933. Hitler appointed German oligarchs as his economic advisors. He proceeded to privatize government-run utilities, solidifying support of the economic elite. With the working class divided among cultural and ethnic lines, the Nazis shut down workers' unions and abolished strikes. Progressives and trade unionists were imprisoned and sent to concentration camps. Corporate profits skyrocketed, while working-class Germans lived paycheck to paycheck. Hitler, who became a billionaire while in office, knew he and his clan of oligarchs could get away with the scam if they constantly had an enemy within to blame, while the corporatocracy robbed the country blind. An easy target was one of the smallest minorities. Hitler removed birthright citizenship rights of Jews and started rounding them up for mass deportations for being illegally in the country. The German press under Nazi rule highlighted instances of violence by Jews to convince the public that Jewish immigrants were a danger to the real Germans. Hitler wasted no time dismantling democratic institutions. Loyalty wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. Opponents were silenced. Media that dared to question him were vilified as the enemy, Marxists. Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, bragged about how the Nazis were able to intimidate the media into giving them favorable coverage, and didn't need to give direct orders. The Nazi regime and its followers collected all books they saw as promoting degeneracy, or what would be considered woke today, and burned them in large bonfires. They also burned books that promoted class consciousness. Berlin had a thriving LGBTQ community in the 1920s, and even had the first transgender clinic. The Nazis burned it to the ground. LGBTQ people were sent to concentration camps, forced to wear triangle badges. Many of them were killed in the Holocaust. The Nazis also saw manhood as under threat by independent women who didn't rely on men. In 1934, Hitler proclaimed, "A woman's world is her husband, her family, her children, her house." Laws that had protected women's rights were repealed, and new laws were introduced to restrict women to the home and in their roles as wives and mothers. Reproductive rights were severely rolled back, and doctors who performed abortions faced the death penalty. Despite all of this, the German people didn't have a similar historical parallel to look upon as a warning. Most Germans never acted like the sky was falling. Most just went along with their lives as usual, until many of their lives were snuffed out. By the time Hitler's reign was forced to an end by the Allied powers, 11 million people were murdered in the Holocaust, and 70 to 85 million were killed in World War II. The parallels are there. Yeah, really, what else is there to say about it? As we speak, migrants are being rounded up, criminal or non-criminal. This man ran on the premise that the violent criminals, rapists, thugs, and prisoners from other countries, they were the ones he was going to focus on. That's not what we're seeing happens. His press secretary claims that if they're in the country illegally, they're a criminal. That's not what he said. He talked about their violence. Those are the ones that we're going to focus on. Now we have talks of 30,000 beds being set up in Guantanamo Bay. That's a place I'm sure you're pretty familiar with. Kristen Ohm gave an interview recently in which she was asked if women and children were going to be kept at Guantanamo Bay. Her answer was not, absolutely not. We would never do that. Her answer was simply, that's not the plan. That doesn't give you pause, I don't know what will. These are still human beings. The recent talks of U.S. aid being shut down paints a pretty bold picture of what their plan is. We won't be the global leader of peace, humanity, decency. Painting ourselves into a corner of our own making, of their making. It's not my America. It's not your America. This is the sort of information that we need to get out to the masses. They need to see these comparisons. They're not pleasant, but they're there. We need to see it. We need to speak about it. We need to scream about it. Because there's strength in unity. And we will resist for the future. My name is Justice Versailles, and I'll see you.